What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another update on the tank. Finally, we got the algae and green water all clear. So a lot of it was due to the high phosphates that was coming out of the tap water, and of course the imbalance of having a new tank and whatnot. So in the last video, in order to combat that, I did some phos ban to remove the phosphate that was coming directly from the tap water, because when I was doing water changes, I was basically fueling this tank with higher phosphates. That helped. Of course, more recently, the city water has, gotten a lot better. The taste has gone down where like you can actually, you don't taste the weirdness of the tap water, and also the phosphate dropped a lot. I did have to run UV sterilizer in this tank for a few weeks, just kind of clear out the green water. And then once, that was done, I removed the UV sterilizer, and right now it's just running on 2 wave pumps. So you got the one on the far left top there, and the one on the middle right. The other thing that comes on is the skimmer. It's on a timer. It comes on 3 times a day for about 15 minutes each, so only 45 minutes total across the whole day. I might tweak that by increasing it a little bit, just to kind of get more better oxygen exchange. I'm noticing some algae growth on the plants now, even though like far back here the tank looks pretty decent. If you zoom into the tank, there is some blackbeard algae. And then also some staghorn algae. The source of that algae is 100% from the dalanoids. When I got the dalanoid plant, there was algae on the plant. I did do a dip prior to, like a hydrogen peroxide dip, and then added it to the tank. And obviously it doesn't really completely kill it. So that's probably where that source came from. You can't really guarantee, 100% algae-free plants unless you're doing tissue culture, but I rolled the dice just because I couldn't find a source of dalanoids that were affordable around me or even online at the time. So I went with that, rolled the dice, and obviously we do have some algae that we have to deal with. And unfortunately, it's starting to kind of get all over the driftwood as well. So it's going to be very, very hard to kind of control once it's kind of like all over the place. The only thing I can really do is spot treat certain things that are kind of really, really bad, and I kind of let the shrimp take care of that, just because it's not really a lot of things that eat staghorn. For the blackbeard, you can get like SAEs, but I'm not going to put SAEs in here because they're going to eat the shrimp. So the best thing I can do is kind of just hydrogen peroxide, spot dose it, kill it, they'll eat it, pick out certain things. But yeah, so I'm gonna have to see how I'm gonna manage this, just because obviously you can kind of get it down to a certain degree where like, oh, you're not going to see it from like a distance, but when you kind of get close, you're going to kind of see a lot of it. But I'm hoping that once we get a lot of these growth to kind of grow a little bit faster and more, it's going to outcompete that. So we'll see what happens. Once I kind of get a little bit better growth from the dalanoids, I'm going to start pulling some of the leaves that are heavily coated in those algae. Or the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start plucking them and just doing a hydrogen peroxide dip, where I take the whole plant out, dip into a bucket, put them back in here, and what's going to happen is those algae is going to basically die, and then let the fish and whatnot pick at it. The rummy nose are starting to look a lot brighter. They're kind of exploring the tank a lot more. They're really familiar with the tank now. Super bright red. When I had them in the quarantine, their head wasn't as red as this. It seems like obviously there's stress conditions out there with the copper and whatnot. They weren't as red, but now, man, they are extremely red, and that color is just so vivid in this tank because everything's like green. You got a lot of dark areas, and it's just boom, bright red here, bright red there. So it's pretty cool. So we do have another batch of livestock outside in the quarantine that has 2 more weeks of quarantine. Everything's looking good out there that we're going to add into here. So we have about another 7 or so rummy nose to kind of make a bigger group. And then we have a few autos that are out there from a second batch, because the first batch did not make it, unfortunately. But the second batch, I bought it from a different source, way better, a lot healthier. We only ended up losing like 2 during quarantine, but the rest are doing a lot better now. Now, the one thing I was kind of worried about with this tank was with the algae issue and the imbalance, a lot of the boosts that I got all melted back. It was really bad meltage. Same thing with the dalanoids and the blicks that just completely melted. And there was this phase of just being really just droopy, melty, kind of dying. But it looks like a lot of them are starting to bounce back, so I'm really happy about that. But yeah, this tank is going to be very simple. I'm doing a very, small water change every week, and then just refilling it and just kind of keeping it really simple. This is a different approach or different take that I normally would do. Normally I would have a filter or something like that, but I just wanted to see if we can do something that's really basic, really simple, and still make a really nice tank. Obviously there's some downsides with not having a filter, but I think that we can make this work. Now, as far as the shrimp, they're doing good. They're kind of like, I was kind of worried about the rummy nose eating them, but it doesn't look like they're going to eat them. But for the babies, they might, because they do kind of go after random like debris and stuff in the tank. So I'm kind of worried about the babies. Luckily, they have this rock structure here that a lot of the shrimp are hiding in and under during the daytime and sometime at night, and they come out during night really. If that's the case, we'll probably be pretty good there. As far as the breeding project for the shrimp, I haven't seen any purple shrimp yet, but I saw some kind of weird, like interesting cross that's more of a brown color, tigerish brown color. If I can find it, I'll show you guys what it looks like. Thought it was interesting because, obviously when you mix different shrimp, they kind of revert back to their wild colors potentially, right? And it's just interesting that a lot of these solid colors here, and then like all of a sudden when you mix them, you get kind of like this completely different strain of shrimp. As you know, this tank was running saltwater for a little over a year, holding some of the fish until I got an upgrade for the tank for them right now. So there was a lot of coralline algae in the tank, and as you can see, most of it is gone. Every week I would try to scrape the walls, trying to remove a lot of that coralline algae off of the walls, and just kind of remove everything as much as possible. So I got like, I would say 99% of it or so. There's a few spots here and there with coralline algae that's obviously not the color anymore, but it's just kind of like white patches that are still there. So I still need to kind of go through that and remove that, but for the most part, I would say it's completely removed or gone. I hope you guys enjoyed this really basic setup of the tank. I wanted to show you guys that you can grow really nice plants, have something, fish, anything, shrimp, without much setup. Obviously, I have some expensive like wave makers just because I like it to be a little automated, controlled on the phone and whatnot, but you can kind of buy cheap wave pumps and just kind of set it and kind of forget it as well. It doesn't have to be anything fancy like this, and really you don't even need a skimmer. But obviously if you don't have a skimmer and you have like some sort of fresh water and you're dipping your hands in and out of the tank, or like you have an open tank cover like this, you're gonna have a lot of stuff that builds up on the top surface. It's like this white junk that sits there. It's like super annoying to deal with. So having like a little small skimmer to kind of like just skim that through is like night and day. It's just automated, so you don't have to worry about it. And plus it helps with gas exchange for the fish, since you don't have a filter or a way of producing oxygen in this tank other than your plants. Alright guys, if you guys aren't subscribed yet, make sure you guys are subscribed, and like always, next one guys, peace.